Good morning. I'm Richard McChesney. Served in the United States Army. Joined in 1175. Just after Vietnam had finished, went to Fort Knox for basic training. Fort Benning for my AIT training. Fort Stewart was my first 2 years in the service, and then I served 2 years in Europe. I enjoyed being in the service. I love this country. I like defending the thought of this country. And now I'm serving with the Randolph County Honor Guard, and also as a veteran representative with hospice here in Randolph County. We could use any help in either department. It's a great job. There's zero pay, but the way you feel once you've given the last rites to that veteran is very powerful. My full-time military service was great. I learned a lot. It made me grow up a lot, and this is an important day for all veterans. Thank you.
Thank you for your service, Richard. Hi, Larry. This is Larry Drawn. And what branch of service did you serve?
I was in the Army from 1969 to 71, active, and 3 years non-active. I took basic at Fort Bragg in 69. Actually I graduated in 68, and then worked a little bit. Got married August 31st, 1969, and 2 weeks later I was in Vietnam. Spent there a year, come back, finished up my active duty at Fort Bragg, and then after that, of course, went into raising a family and so forth. I'm a full-time member of, and past commander of Ashburn Post 45, active member of VFW at Holden Beach at 8868, and basically that's it right now.
Okay. Well, is there anything that you can tell us that impacted you the most while you were serving?
It's one of those things when you leave home and you travel thousands and thousands of miles away from where you're raised and so forth, and you get to a place you've never been, and you wonder, how did I get here? And am I going to make it back? Am I going to see my family again? And that's really where I had my really first prayer to God and say, protect me, protect us, keep us safe, and bring us back home as quickly as possible. I did lose two great friends, lives in Ashboro, Mickey Hill, Billy Underwood. I went to school with both these guys, and I'm just thankful that I made it back, and God's been good to me and my family. So I learned a lesson by going to the military, and it just made me a better person.
Oh, thank you, and thank you so much for your service.
I'm Sandra Allen, and I'm the wife of Charles Allen, and I'm going to talk about my father-in-law, Hayden Allen Sr. He was my hero, and he was drafted in World War II. Charles was a premature baby, and my father-in-law had to leave to go into the service. And once he was there, he was a country boy from Virginia and was used to hunting, so he was a good sharpshooter, and they offered him an extra $20 a month to carry a BAR. Being young and foolish, he thought that was a good deal because he had a wife at home with 2 babies, and $20 would make a difference. But he didn't talk much about the war and the time he served in Europe, Germany. But as he got older, he did, maybe to release some of what he had seen. I don't know. But he talked about how dark it was at night and how when they changed duty, they would have to hold hands and to go out to their points. And I think we'll never understand the sacrifices that these men made.
Thank you, Sandra.
I'm Jay Smith, and the first thing I want to do is honor some of my relatives. And the first one I want to honor today is Cornelius Robert Garner. He was in World War I, He was stationed at Fort Bragg, South Carolina, and he died December the 14th, 1917, with pneumonia. My great uncle. Now, 4 others I want to honor, and that is my dad's brothers, Woodrow Smith and Jennings Sam Smith. They were in World War II. And my mother's brothers, John Brown and Lacey Brown. They were prisoners of war. They were missing in action for a while, and it was caused a lot of anguish in our family. I went into the military in 1959 in August. I did my basic training in Fort Jackson, South Carolina. There's pictures of when I was in Fort Jackson. And I went to Fort Gordon, Georgia for my military police training, and that is a picture of when I was in Fort Gordon. I was given the opportunity to apply for officer training school, but had no interest. I wanted to be in the Army at that time about as much as I wanted to be in a wasp nest. Not realizing how much interest God had in making my tour so good for me. Rattle, rattle, rattle. After Fort Gordon, I went to Fort Ord, California, where I got on a troop ship, and I went to Port of Whittier in Alaska. And then we got off of the ship and went on a train through the mountains to Fairbanks, Alaska, and to Ladd Air Force Base. I was attached to Army Headquarters Company and lived with the air policemen in barracks across the base from the.
Jay, we'd like to thank you for your service.
All right, this is Ron Kane. And Ron, tell us what branch of service that you served in.
In the regular Army.
In the United States Army. And what date did you go in and how long did you serve?
I went in January of 1962 and served until 64.
Okay. And were you drafted?
Yes.
Yeah. I bet that was a scary feeling. You're just called up and you're brought into a room.
Now, I never had really been away from home, so it was kind of. But I was kind of real nervous. But once I got in, and got settled in, I made it fine.
Yeah.
And God was good to me. He took care of me during that time. And I never was in any combat, but I know that God see me through some times that wasn't too good.
Where did you take your basic training at?
In Fort Chaffee, Arkansas.
Okay. And where did you do most of your service?
In Fort Bragg. I was in the military police, and I went through the military police school at Fort Gordon, Georgia, and then I served the rest of my time at Fort Bragg.
Okay. This is Brenda Kane. And Brenda, what branch of service did you serve in?
I served in the U.S. Army. At that time, we were called the Women's Army Corps. So that goes back quite a few years.
Yeah.
I was in from, 1969 and 1970. And when I got out of the active duty service, I went into the National Guard. And I was in the National Guard in North Carolina for a year, and then transferred to the National Guard in Georgia for a year. And I actually worked for them full-time as mostly payroll technician, and just whatever they happened to need in the administrative field.
Okay. Now, where did you go to your basic training?
Fort McClellan, Alabama.
Okay.
And I did my AIT there also. And I finished an 8-week course in 3 weeks. So therefore, they gave me a prestigious station. For my first station, I went to the Pentagon.
Oh.
Yeah,
wow.
In Washington. And I worked for DESOPS, which was the Department of Services and Operations, which was a top secret office. We, at that time, had to do all of our work on old typewriters, and of course, they had the ribbons in them at that time. And every day they came through and collected our ribbons because no one could know what we had typed that day. So they destroyed them every day.
Wow. Interesting. So while you were in, what impacted you the most?
Well, my second position, I went to Fitzsimmons General Hospital in Denver, Colorado. And this gets to my heart. I was I worked with the officers coming back from Vietnam. And it was, a lot of it was just really heart-wrenching, what they went through. And the how harmed they were when they came back, whether it was physical or mental. I'm so sorry.
That's okay. Yeah. Well, we're so thankful that you were there to do that and that you were there to greet them and to try and help bring
Yeah, I
them
dealt
back.
with their families, trying to
Yeah.
get them to where they could come see the officers, and made sure they got their awards for whatever it was they did, and made sure that they got all of their pay, back pay, whatever anything they needed, I handled for them.
Okay. Well, we thank you. We thank you so much for your service, Brenda.
Thank you.
This is Walker Moody, and Charles Glass made this case for his wife Ree to display the flag and this picture of him. While Walker was in the military, he served over in Germany and he served in Indiana, and Ree was able to visit him while he served in Indiana, and this was right before they were married. They were married after he was in the military. So Ree, what branch of service was Walker in?
U.S. Army.
And when did he enlist, or was he drafted?
He was drafted.
Drafted. And what year was that?
Probably 52.
52. Okay, so he served in the Korean War.
Yes.
And did he ever serve in the Vietnam War?
No.
Okay. How long was he in?
3 years.
3 years. Okay.
Hello, I'm Bill Applewhite. I was drafted into the United States Army in March of 1954, discharged in March of 1956. After being inducted in Raleigh, I was taken down to Fort Jackson, South Carolina for 8 weeks of basic training, and then I was assigned to the Wheel Vehicle Mechanic School. There was 4 schools at Fort Jackson, and that's the one they put me in, and they tried to make a mechanic out of me. And I was able to graduate as an honor graduate, which led to them asking me to stay as an instructor. So I stayed on at Fort Jackson as an instructor in the Wheel Vehicle Mechanic School, which was a part of the 101st Airborne Division, which had 4 schools at Fort Jackson. And I thought I really had it made, but then they reactivated the 101st and shipped all of us out in the late fall of 1954, and I wound up in Korea. And they assigned me to the United Nations Command Military Armistice Commission, Major Motor Pool, and put me in charge of a heavy maintenance shop because I had been an instructor in automotive and truck mechanics. And I had a nice group of people that I worked with. We had about 6 or 7 mechanics in each one of the shops, and we supplied all of the vehicles for all of the officers who were involved in trying to get a peace treaty at Panmunjom, about 10 miles north of where our camp was. But that was the basis for our camp, was to supply everything that was needed regarding wheeled vehicles for all of the peacekeeping effort to try to get a treaty after the ceasefire, but they were never able to get one. And I served out my time there, and shipped me back home. I went over on the General Mitchell, came back on the sister ship, the General Man. Was happy to get back home to my sweet wife.
Thank you for your service, Bill.
You're welcome.
Thank you.